Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. My fiancé held a knife to my throat and threatened him. Bring her back or you'll be collecting your sister's corpse. My brother didn't even glance at me. Oh, then go ahead and kill her. Triggered by this, my depression hit me hard and I thrust myself onto the blade. After I died, they all went insane. Chapter 1. The day I tried on my wedding dress, my fiancé Angelo pressed a knife to my throat. In a deep voice he said, "Jessica, I'm sorry." After speaking, he made a video call to my brother Eric. Took 3 tries but Eric finally picked up. Angelo casually positioned me front and center in the video. The knife grazed my artery. Angelo's handsome face was twisted with bloodthirsty cruelty. Bring her back, or you'll be collecting your sister's corpse. Before I could fully grasp what Angelo was doing or even feel the hurt, an image of that girl flashed through my mind. Chapter 2. The girl's name was Abigail, and everyone said she was Angelo's pet canary. She once came to my school and openly provoked me. I've been with Angelo for 3 years and we'll get married eventually. What's the point of clinging to that engagement? Are you planning to live in an empty house? Abigail's face was full of disdain, her words cutting and confident. After delivering her blow, she left, head held high. Outside, a Kian was waiting for her. Quite the spectacle. I stared at her retreating figure, a mocking smile playing on my lips. In truth, she was wrong. It wasn't me who wanted to get married. It was Angelo who constantly brought up the engagement. He had wanted to marry me for a while. Maybe it was for a family alliance. What other reason could there be? It couldn't be that he still remembered me as his first love. But first loves are nothing but a distant memory. I was probably the only one who still held on to it. Chapter 3. Abigail didn't upset me as much as she enraged my best friend. She called my brother Eric, hoping he'd stand up for me. But when the call connected, we heard Eric's voice alongside Abigail's. "You've yelled at my sister." Feeling better now. Turns out the owner of the Kian was my brother. I hadn't recognized the car before. Probably because my brother never picked me up. Yes, Eric liked Abigail too. But he was more noble than Angelo. He wanted Abigail to be happy openly and legitimately. He repeatedly pressured Angelo to marry Abigail, and never approved of my engagement with Angelo. Unfortunately, all his efforts were in vain. This marriage was about the interests of both our families. Not everyone was as love-struck as Eric. At least Angelo wasn't. When the Ku and Lu families finalized the wedding date, Eric publicly confronted Angelo, demanding, "Angelo, how could you do this to Abi?" In front of the elders, Angelo merely smiled. "Who's Abi? I only know Jesse." Angelo was far better at reading the room than Eric. That's why my father favored him. But now, I never expected that someone as composed as Angelo would have such a reckless day. When his beloved canary was stolen, he didn't hesitate to hold a knife to his fiancée's throat. Chapter 4. Abigail and I look about 70% alike. My best friend suspected that Angelo was indulging in some kind of replacement love trope. I smiled bitterly at the time. Who would pull a knife on the original if they were looking for a replacement? I once cut my finger, and Angelo was heartbroken for days. But now he could hold a knife to my throat for Abigail. Disheartened, I closed my eyes. At the same time, my brother, seeing this scene through the phone, let out a cold laugh. "Oh, then go ahead and kill her." His disdainful tone didn't match that of a real brother. I froze, the wound in my heart tearing wide open. I stared at Eric, my pupils widening. He was my brother. My real brother. Tears, despite my efforts, rolled down my cheeks. On the other side of the screen, Eric glanced at me, his brow furrowing. For a brief moment, pain flashed across his handsome face. I thought he might change his mind. But the next second, he averted his gaze and spoke indifferently. "Anyway, Angelo, I'm not giving Abigail back to you." That's right. He had taken Abigail and never intended to return her. "Angelo, you're such a bastard. You're about to marry my sister. And you still think you can hold on to Abigail? What do you take her for?" Every word was about Abigail, not Jesse. "What do you take Abigail for? But tell me, what do you take me for?" My heart sank to rock bottom. For some reason, I suddenly recalled my childhood. Back then, Mom was still alive. She asked Eric gently, "Will you protect your sister when you grow up?" Eric promised confidently. Of course I will. Mom then asked, and what if your sister encounters a bad person? Without hesitation, Eric replied, I'll hide her and I'll go fight the bad guy. In contrast to now, all I felt was irony. My hand gradually fell to my side as my untreated depression flared up all at once. It felt like I could hear a voice from the abyss. Nobody loves you. Your brother doesn't love you. Your fiancé doesn't love you either. Die. Death means no more pain. Go see your mother. Okay. Chapter 5. All I wanted was for Angelo to kill me quickly. End it all. But then with a dull thud, the Swiss Army knife dropped to the carpet. Angelo's voice was calm. I'm sorry. I ignored him. It didn't matter anymore. Nobody's apology mattered anymore. I just slowly straightened my wedding dress. I had heard that people are buried in shrouds after they die. But a shroud probably wouldn't look as nice as this wedding dress, would it? As I pondered, Angelo left. He was busy searching for Abigail and didn't bother finishing me off. But thankfully, he didn't take the knife with him. The blade was sharp. I picked it up and whispered to myself, it doesn't hurt. Chapter 6. I often heard people say that after you die, your soul drifts to places you're attached to. So my spirit ended up at a familiar little house. This was where I was born. I lived here until I was 14, and my mom was with me the whole time. Returning to the little house made me happy. I lay on the pink bed and arranged myself peacefully. After all, I had been miserable in life. I didn't want to be a restless ghost. But after a while, click. The door opened. Strange. Does someone still come here? I opened my eyes, stunned. There, standing tall with a delicate figure beside him, were Eric and Abigail. This is the biggest, sunniest room. You'll stay here, Eric said as he led Abigail inside, pulling open the floor-to-ceiling curtains. With a swish, bright sunlight flooded the room. Fearing the light, I quickly hid under the bed. Abigail stood against the light, turning into a golden painting. Eric was entranced. Jessie, he seemed to call my name. No, I must have heard wrong. The midday sun was too hot, almost scorching me to ashes. It hurt so much. Chapter 7. Thankfully, Abigail's eyes were sensitive to the light, and Eric pulled the curtains closed again. I could finally breathe. As I crawled out from under the bed, I saw Abigail's high heels pressing into my carpet. This is your sister's room. Won't she be upset? I sneered, feigning ignorance. Of course I'd be upset. This room was decorated by my mother's hands. The embroidery on the pillow was stitched by her. But tonight Abigail would be lying on it. Abigail glanced at the photos on the wall, envy flashing in her eyes. Your sister got to travel to Europe when she was so young. She was really lucky. People really aren't all the same, are they? Eric looked at her, his eyes filled with pity. After a long moment of thought, he took down my photo. This was our old home. She won't be coming here. Pausing for a moment, his expression darkened. She doesn't deserve to. Chapter 8. It turned out Eric had always hated me. He had been silent all these years, but that didn't mean he had forgotten. Back when our dad cheated, I urged my mom to divorce him. I still remember how he roared at me. Mom has such a soft heart. Dad's already apologized. She'll definitely forgive him. This is all your fault. You've been in school all these years just to tear this family apart. I was stunned into silence by his outburst. I didn't understand. Dad had hurt Mom. He made her suffer. Why couldn't they get a divorce? Did it mean that in a marriage a woman is doomed to be hurt by a man? I just wanted Mom to be happy, to stop crying in secret, to stop enduring, to stop giving in. But in the end, Mom didn't find a new dawn, she died. Eric hated me for it. He called me stupid. Mom was like a parasitic vine. She couldn't survive on her own. You're the one who killed her. It was your messed up ideas that killed her. I don't know if I was right or wrong, but Mom did pass away after the divorce. Maybe if they hadn't divorced, she wouldn't have died. The more I thought about it, the guiltier I felt. I told Eric that I'd never spout nonsense again. Eric pushed me away, shouting angrily, "It's too late. Mom's already dead. How can you ever live with yourself?" It was as if his words had been a curse, because since then I never did live well. And from that day on I subdued my nature. I endured. I gave in. Even when Angelo was parading around with other women and then proposed to me just to maintain the family alliance, I acted as though nothing had happened and smiled as I accepted. Like a doormat. Mom died. And I became her. Eric held the photo frame, memories flooding his mind, filling him with frustration and an unexplainable regret. Back then, was it really Jesse's fault? It had been too long. He didn't want to think about it anymore. And even if it was her fault, so what? In Jessica's eyes, he was no longer the good brother anyway. Maybe that was for the best. Yes, it was just as well. Seeing his silence, Abigail bit her lip and lowered her head. What Angelo did to your sister, are you sure it's all right? It's my fault. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't be facing this dilemma. How could Angelo hold a knife to his fiancée like that? He didn't need to go to such lengths for me. Abigail's eyes reddened as she spoke, as if she deeply regretted what had happened to me. But hearing her words made me uncomfortable. Don't worry, even if the sky falls, Angelo won't hurt her. Eric's face remained indifferent, though a flicker of concern flashed across his eyes. Is that so? Abigail whispered, her eyes dimming. He'd never hurt Jessica. I guess I was overthinking. Eric didn't notice the change in her expression. His gaze was fixed on the chandelier above. It swayed as though someone were sitting on it. Impossible. He must be imagining things. It probably just reminded him of Jessica again. When Jessica was little, she was skinny. Once, while playing hide and seek, she climbed onto the chandelier and almost fell. Eric had asked her if she'd ever dare do it again. She had raised her little face defiantly and said, "I'd do it again next time. If you make me mad, I'll climb up there. I'll scare you to death." Jessica had been bold and rebellious as a child. They used to be so close as siblings. He was the one who changed. Thinking of this, Eric's hand suddenly trembled. What is Jessica doing now? Is she upset? Should he call her? They were siblings. It was normal for him to worry about his sister, wasn't it? Chapter 10. I sat on the chandelier, watching Eric from above. I hadn't looked at him properly in a long time. Honestly, we didn't look alike at all. Maybe he had figured out a long time ago that we weren't actually blood-related siblings, and that's why he had started treating me poorly. I swung lightly, seeing Eric hand a tissue to a tearful Abigail. So warm and gentlemanly. Just like the brother I remembered. At that moment, the sound of a scuffle came from downstairs. Angelo had arrived. His bodyguards were fighting with Eric's men. Hearing the commotion, Eric walked out and leaned on the railing of the second floor, looking down from above. Weren't you supposed to be taking wedding photos with Jessica? Of course it's you trying to have it both ways. His grip tightened on the railing, his veins bulging. No one infuriated Eric more than Angelo. He had allowed Angelo to marry Jessie. He already had everything. Why was he still trying to take Abigail? Anger churned inside Eric, but his face remained calm and composed. If you come any closer, Jessie won't be happy. Hearing this, Angelo lifted his chin slightly, sneering. You're one to talk. You don't care if Jessica lives or dies, so why should her happiness matter to you? If things were still good between him and Jessica, Angelo thought, he would have beaten Eric to a pulp by now. Brother, huh? Seeing the hostility in Angelo's eyes, Eric's long fingers clenched into a fist. How could I compare to you, holding a knife to your own fiancé? Do you really not regret it? Eric thought to himself, Dad must have been blind to choose this man as Jessie's fiancé. Jessie, who had convinced their mother to get a divorce as a child, how could she now tolerate this? How much love does it take to keep forgiving his absurdities? Eric's heart ached. And when Angelo heard the word regret, his chest tightened with a dull throb. But that frustration passed quickly. This was what Jessica owed him. He had nothing to be sorry for. In fact, he liked seeing Jessica in pain because of him. At least he could still hurt her, couldn't he? With that thought, Angelo smirked and spoke slowly with elegance. I never regret anything I do. Chapter 11. Listening to their back-and-forth jabs only made me feel worse. The midday heat was suffocating. The old house had poor air conditioning. I clung to the fridge for relief. Someone must have left it open, and the cool air seeped out, soothing me. I hadn't realized that even in death, I'd have such mundane needs. Speaking of death, it had been half an hour since I died. The bridal shop was part of the Liu family's business. Had no one discovered anything yet? I really had been too impulsive. Using that Swiss Army knife. I wonder if I scared the staff there. Why did my death have to trouble others too? Sigh. Feeling disheartened, I wanted to go check on things, but I realized I couldn't leave this house. So, I was forced to stay and watch the ridiculous drama of two men fighting over one woman. By now, Angelo had lost his patience. Enough with the nonsense. Give Abby back to me. Or else. He hated it when others took what was his. He clenched his fists as if ready to reclaim what belonged to him, but suddenly he felt something missing. What was it? Angelo's tense face suddenly slackened, his gaze unfocused. It felt like he'd lost something critical. Oh right, he remembered, the Swiss Army knife was missing. Did he take it with him when he left the bridal shop, or did he leave it there? In the dressing room? Suddenly, Jessica's frail figure flashed in his mind. When he had held the knife to her throat, her neck had been so thin, her collarbone delicate, her arms without an ounce of excess fat. How skinny was she? Did she not eat regularly? Angelo realized it had been a long time since he had made sure she ate properly. The last time he saw her eating, she suddenly vomited halfway through, and he had been so furious he kicked the table over. But why had she vomited? He couldn't help but think of that incident, the reason they broke up. The fact that another man had violated Jessica felt like his heart was tearing apart. What was he doing? He had left Jessie and the Swiss Army knife behind, both in the dressing room. For the first time, a wave of panic surged through Angelo's chest. Chapter 12. Seeing Angelo's shifting expression, I simply averted my gaze. Would he get this nervous over Abigail too? Once upon a time he used to worry about me like that. Until the tabloids caught a photo of me being carried into a hotel by another man. Because of the angle, it looked like I wasn't resisting. So no matter how much I explained later that I'd been framed, Angelo was convinced I had betrayed him. One time during a meal, I vomited because my depression had manifested physically. Angelo assumed I was carrying someone else's child and kicked the table in a rage. After that, he became the person he is today. I shook my head. None of it mattered anymore. After a while, Abigail finally appeared. Like the protagonist of a long drawn-out struggle, she made her grand entrance. She still looked like the victim, the one who always gave in under pressure. "Stop fighting," she cried. "Angelo, I won't go back with you anymore. You should focus on living your life with Jessica." She bit her lip as if making a huge decision, a great sacrifice. I watched, guessing Angelo would feel sorry for her again. But the air was still. Angelo didn't seem to hear her or care at all. Seeing this, Abigail's face turned pale, her tears fell like a string of pearls, and she ran out the door. It was like watching a good show. I couldn't help but laugh. But something felt off. Angelo just stood there, not thinking about Abigail. Who was he thinking about? He looked like he was about to fall apart. Chapter 13. Angelo, what are you doing? Abby's crying. Eric couldn't stand to see Abigail in tears. He was about to go comfort her when Angelo stopped him. "Has Jessica called you?" "Jessica? Did I hear that right?" Angelo was thinking about me. Hearing my name, Eric's eyes flickered with a trace of guilt, but not much. Why would she call me? By now she's probably home. She's always carefree. Eric responded casually, then quickly instructed the housekeeper. "Ms. Liu, call the new house." Ms. Liu was a housekeeper who had worked for our family for a long time. She had seen me grow up and cared for me deeply. However, at this moment, she didn't make the call. Instead, she stared at me. Yes, it seemed she could see me. Then I heard her speak. "I have a feeling something's happened to Mississippi. You should go check the bridal shop." Chapter 14. Normally, Eric would have been amused by such a baseless comment. But he opened his mouth and didn't say a word. The next second, he grabbed his coat and headed out. "I'll be out for a while." As he walked, he didn't forget to instruct Angelo. "You stay here and keep an eye on Abby. She has depression, and I'm worried she might do something rash." Angelo frowned. "Let the bodyguards watch her. I'm going to the bridal shop too." Halfway through his sentence, his phone suddenly rang. I moved closer to take a look. It was the bridal shop calling. My heart tightened slightly. It was probably the news of my death. Angelo quickly answered. "Speak." From the other side of the line came a stammering voice. Why, young master? Miss Koo has been taken away. Someone stormed into the dressing room, and we couldn't stop him. I lifted my head in surprise. Who would take my body? Angelo clenched his jaw, his voice hard. Who? Mario, came the clear reply from the other end of the line. At the mention of that name, Angelo's face darkened instantly. Why him? At the door, Eric was also deep in thought. What does he want? I didn't understand either. I didn't know this man, but I had seen him a few times in financial news. Mario, the low-key tycoon of the finance world. As they spoke, I felt my cold body being lifted into a warm embrace. Suddenly, a scene appeared before my eyes. In the vision, the one holding me was a man dressed in a sleek suit, very handsome. It must be Mario, the one Angelo mentioned. He stared at my pale body and said, I'm sorry. Why was he apologizing to me? Did we know each other? Later, I was placed in a room filled with medical equipment, surrounded by doctors. I didn't know what he was trying to achieve. I was already dead, but somehow I was moved by his efforts. At least someone was trying to save me. Mario's expression was serious and quiet. Perhaps because he stayed by my body, performing what felt like some kind of ritual. I could see this scene. I could even hear his thoughts. Jessica, I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. I read the articles you wrote standing up for your mom's unfair treatment in her marriage. My mom was the same. Back then, I knew you were a thoughtful, dignified person. You weren't the kind of woman I thought you were. His deep gaze lingered on my body, filled with regret. He was referring to articles I had written long ago when my mom was still alive. After she passed, Eric said it was my crazy ideas that had killed her. That made me doubt myself immensely, and I stopped writing. What did Mario mean by saying I wasn't that kind of woman? After a long silence, his slow thoughts finally reached me. I thought you were a vain woman, and after that night I didn't let you know who I was. Chapter 16. His voice was low and soothing, yet it sent chills down my spine. He was talking about that night, my first night. So it was him. He had stayed hidden all this time, afraid I would cling to him. My impression of Mario instantly evaporated. When that photo was leaked to the tabloids, only I was exposed. Mario's face wasn't caught, so he remained in the shadows unscathed. Meanwhile, I had to quit the job I loved and retreat into further education at the university. So what price did Mario pay? He said he had been drugged that night, unable to control himself. So he had grabbed me, the one left alone, and taken me to the hotel. I had thought it was Angelo who had been with me, and I missed the window to report it. Until the following week when the scandal broke, everyone called me a slut. Shameless. Worthless. As I thought about all this, I hugged my knees tighter. I hadn't expected that even my soul could feel cold. Yet stepping away from the fridge made me feel uncomfortable. Despite the early summer warmth, death wasn't easy. And the one who should have died wasn't me. At the same time, it seemed that Angelo and Eric were both trying to contact Mario. I could sense that Mario didn't answer. I also sensed my phone ringing. After I died, my phone had stayed with me. Mario answered it, and the caller was my best friend, Cecilia. From his thoughts, I gathered that he knew through his investigations that Cecilia was someone I trusted. He felt guilty toward me and wanted to find a way to make things right. He could only do so through Cecilia. As I stared, lost in thought at the sudden scene before me, Angelo and Eric, frustrated by not being able to reach me, both set out to find me. Just then, a bodyguard ran in and reported, Miss Abigail is standing by the lake. She seems to want to end her life. The air froze for a moment. Eric panicked and said, Oh no, Abby has depression. Angelo's face darkened. What did you say? How did I not know? Eric sneered. What do you know? Have you ever cared about Abby? He sure knew how to stand up for others. But brother, I have depression too. Did you ever care about me? No. You go find Jessica. I'll go check on Abby. I'm going too. Jessica won't die anyway. I won't die, huh? Chapter 17. I remained crouched by the fridge, watching as the room grew quiet. In the living room, it was just me and Ms. Liu, the housekeeper. Her eyes were already red with tears. Jessie, is it really you? How can you see me? I asked. I don't know, Jessie. But how did this happen? Liu, I'm dead. I killed myself. It was only now that I realized how difficult it was for me to admit that I had taken my own life. Luckily, Ms. Liu didn't scold me. She just looked at me with sorrow in her eyes. Does it hurt? I was startled and tears welled up again. But living had been more painful. I killed Mom. That's why my brother hates me. I'm unclean. That's why Angelo hates me. I spoke softly. It was the truth, wasn't it? But when Ms. Liu heard this, she looked at me in shock. Why would you think that? What makes you think you're unclean? And even if you were, is Angelo so pure? Your mother's death was not your fault. She was killed by a robber. Do you think not getting divorced would have prevented that? You were her only daughter, Jessie. If she knew you were carrying this burden. Ms. Liu blurted out, clearly distressed. She hadn't seen Jessica in a long time, or else she would have said this earlier. Jessica had been living at the new house where Ms. Liu wasn't allowed to visit. Her words gave me a faint sense of comfort. For the first time, I moved away from the fridge and didn't feel as uncomfortable as before. But at some point, Eric had appeared behind her. What are you mumbling about? Jessie is Mom's only daughter. What does that mean? He had just pulled Abigail out of the lake and sent her to the hospital with Angelo. Now he had returned to change his clothes, only to overhear this. Jessie is Mom's only daughter. Then what about him? If he and Jessie weren't siblings, then what had all his restraint been for? The moment Angelo held a knife to Jessie, all his endurance became a joke. He urgently pressed Ms. Liu for answers. Of course, Ms. Liu didn't dare say anything. But I no longer wanted to hide it. Crash. The family photo from the dining room fell, and his true identity was revealed within it. He was the orphan of my father's business partner. There was no doubt about it. Eric was devastated. I thought it was because he couldn't accept the truth. But instead, he just muttered to himself. It's too late. There's no going back. Jessie will never forgive me. He was overthinking it. The dead don't care about forgiveness. Chapter 18. Angelo had taken Abigail to the hospital, but all he could think about was Jessica. Why would Mario take Jessica away? Why had Mario suddenly reappeared? Could it be? Was Mario the man from that night? As the thought crossed his mind, his expression grew darker, more vicious. So Jessica liked Mario. That's why she gave herself to him so easily, without a hint of refusal. But so what? Jessica still had to marry him in the end. Even if it killed him, he wouldn't let Jessica go. Meanwhile, at the high-end hospital room where Jessica's body lay, the chief doctor regretfully informed Mario that there was nothing they could do. I'm sorry, Mr. Zhao. The patient was beyond saving. My condolences. Hearing this, Mario didn't respond. He wiped his face and nodded. His heart felt as though it was missing something, a hollow ache. All these years he hadn't had any other women. When it came to Jessica, he had kept tabs on her from a distance, convincing himself it had just been a brief fling. Besides, the Ku family was no match for the Zhou family. He didn't see a future with Jessica. In fact, he was always wary of her motives. But as he slowly discovered that Jessica wasn't a gold digger, he began to regret his actions. He started investigating her life, learning about the hardships and humiliations she had endured. He wanted to make amends but was afraid of disrupting her life. Now she was gone. And what could he do? There was nothing he could do. For the first time, Mario felt utterly powerless. Chapter 19. As I drifted through the old house, I could feel Mario's attempts at redemption. It only made me laugh out loud. This man. His shamelessness knew no bounds. Not long after, I saw Cecilia. She had arrived at the hospital. After Mario's assistant explained everything to her, she nearly fainted from crying. But in the end, she whispered something that caught me off guard. Mr. Zhao is such a great guy. Why didn't you meet him while you were alive? Why did you have to die? What a waste. I shook my head. Even Cecilia had been deceived by him. What I hadn't expected was the look of deep regret on Mario's face as well. I guess it wasn't meant to be between us in this lifetime, he said. Then, feeling the need to clarify, he told Cecilia the truth about that night without holding back. He explained how I had been drunk and he had been drugged. It was him who had carried me into the hotel room. Maybe he thought it didn't matter. Or perhaps he believed that being with him was a blessing for me, even if it had been a casual encounter. After recounting the events of that night, he solemnly added, "I would have married her even in death. I'll make sure she gets her place in my life." He seemed to think this made him honorable and responsible, but he didn't realize Cecilia was someone who paid attention to the important details. She sat there listening quietly, her expression growing darker and darker. Chapter 20. You took advantage of Jessica when she was drunk and worried she'd cling to you. You're unbelievable. Cecilia's blunt words left even Mario's bodyguards stunned. But in that moment Mario remained composed, convinced of his righteousness. "I am," he admitted. "All right, I've heard enough." Cecilia jumped to her feet and stormed out into the bustling hospital corridor. It was only then that she pointed her finger at Mario's face and cursed him out. "I thought you were Jesse's savior, but you're nothing but a rapist. Do you have any idea what she's been through all these years? And now you want to marry her? Mr. Zhao, I've already recorded everything and sent it to the police. Prepare to face the consequences. And to all the women passing by, take a good look. Just because someone's rich and handsome doesn't mean they're a prince. Beware of men like him." Cecilia yelled and cursed, even turning on her phone's camera and speaker for the whole world to see. I felt a surge of joy watching this unfold. For the first time I regretted my suicide. Until now, whether it was rolling off the bed from the scorching sun or being stuck in this old house suffering from both heat and cold, I hadn't felt regret. But now I regretted it deeply. If I hadn't killed myself, Cecilia and I would be having dinner in the school cafeteria right now. She'd be chattering away about her weekend plans. We could have gone hiking or maybe skiing. Oh right, her cat was about to have kittens and I had promised to visit. The stronger my desire to live, the more I realized how truly dead I was. Chapter 21. Suddenly, I wasn't afraid of the sunlight anymore. My soul could move freely again. I floated to the hospital where I saw my own body. There was Jessica's death certificate. I watched as the police took Mario away. Cecilia, as a witness, went along with them. She stood by my bedside and said, "Don't worry, I'm fighting this battle for you. Rest well." She held her head high like a general going into battle. I wanted to follow her, but I couldn't enter the police station. So I was forced to return to the hospital. While wandering around, I saw Angelo. He was with Abigail, his mind clearly elsewhere. Abigail was pouting and acting spoiled. "Ange, I won't throw any more tantrums. Don't get married, okay? I don't want to lose you." Angelo stroked her hair, gazing at her face which resembled Jessica's. He smiled faintly and said, "I won't leave you. Even after I marry her, you'll still be the real Mrs. Liu." Angelo was already imagining how heartbroken Jessica would be. But this was what she owed him. He had loved Jessica so deeply, yet she had pined for Mario. Angelo pushed Abigail aside, his face cold as he stepped outside to make a call. Driven by his desire to win, he had begun investigating Mario's wealth. That's when he learned Mario had been arrested, along with all the reasons why. Chapter 21. What did you say? He forced Jessica that night. Jessica didn't do it willingly. Jessica never mentioned. Angelo stopped mid-sentence. He asked himself, did Jessica really never say anything? The truth was he didn't want to hear it. Because that night, it was him who had invited Jessica to drink with him. It was his hormones going wild, hoping to keep Jessica in the hotel. But did he succeed? He had booked the room for Jessica, and then just as he turned around, his phone rang. It was Abigail calling. Back then, Abigail was just a junior at school, always asking questions. He didn't want Jessica to misunderstand, so he lied, saying he was going to the bathroom. But in the time it took for one phone call, drunk Jessica had disappeared. The next day, his fiancée's scandal made the headlines. All he felt was rage. From start to finish, he never listened to a word Jessica had to say in her defense. But in reality, the fault was his. And look at him now. What had he done? He hadn't even married her. Yet he was already keeping a mistress. He had even planned to continue after the wedding, out in the open. He took pleasure in tormenting Jessica. When did it start, this habit of enjoying Jesse's misery? He knew full well that whenever Jessie was upset, she couldn't eat. That time at the dinner table when she dry-heaved, she was probably feeling unwell. Yet he had assumed she was pregnant and called her unclean. He was a complete bastard. Frantically, Angelo pulled out his phone, scrolling for what seemed like forever before he found Jessica's number. He hastily dialed, frantically trying to organize his thoughts. Where should he start? Should he apologize for allowing Abigail to bully her? Or for threatening her with a knife? Could there still be a way back for him and Jessica? Chapter 22. Angelo couldn't reach me. Then it hit him, he hadn't followed up after the earlier call. You said Mario got taken in. What about Jessica? Jessica's dead. They're still investigating the cause of death. What? You didn't know that either? She was your fiancée. Even his friend couldn't hold back their disapproval. Angelo hung up, his mind going blank. Cause of death. Jessica's cause of death. He couldn't wait another second and raced to the bridal shop to check the security footage. In that moment, I found myself uncontrollably following him there. Arriving at the bridal shop at the same time was Eric. As Jessica's family, he had already been informed. It was absurd. Just before getting the news of her death, he had learned that he wasn't actually Jessica's biological brother. Realizing that all his self-restraint had been for nothing was a cruel joke. So what had he been doing all these years? Pretending that he no longer had feelings for Jessica. Pretending that Jessica was just an annoying little sister while doting on Abigail. Even allowing Abigail to bully her. All of these little things Eric couldn't forgive himself for. Yet here he was, shamelessly wanting to find Jessica. He had even worn the suit Jessica had given him years ago. That suit had been thrown into a corner, old and far from new. But still he wore it. He didn't expect Jessie to forgive him. He just wanted to see her openly one last time. To see her brilliant smile. To hear her soft voice. He suddenly realized he hadn't seen Jessie happy in a long time. All because he had stopped paying attention to her. He vowed to make up for everything in the future. Eric planned so much. The only thing he hadn't expected was the call from the hospital. Are you Jessica Ku's brother, Eric? Please come to identify her body. First he was convinced it was a scam. Who would dare curse Jessie? Were they crazy? But then a call from the police. A call from Cecilia. Cecilia's voice dripped with sarcasm. Good brother. Your sister's dead. You're not still thinking about being Abigail's backup, are you? It was as if he'd been slapped. His brain went numb. Jessica dead? Impossible. He hadn't apologized, hadn't made amends, hadn't even told her he wasn't her brother anymore. He couldn't believe it. Chapter 23. The security footage captured the entire process of my death. Eric and Angelo both stared at the screen. Eric laughed coldly. Impossible. This can't be real. This footage is fake, right? Who would fabricate this? Jessie has always been cheerful and lively. She'd never commit suicide. Angelo remained frozen, watching it over and over again. He repeatedly questioned his staff. This isn't Jessica, is it? Answer me. It's not her. Jessica wouldn't die. She hasn't even become my bride yet. Even when the police arrived to take the footage as evidence, they still couldn't accept it. Eric smiled calmly, saying to the officers, Officers, you should investigate thoroughly. This footage is fake. My sister is very optimistic. She would never commit suicide. The police officer looked at him and said quietly, My condolences, but based on our investigation, your sister had been suffering from severe depression for some time and had been undergoing treatment. Eric stood there as if struck by lightning. He forced a smile, his lips trembling as he spoke. Impossible. Jessie is so well behaved. She wouldn't hide something like this from me. I'm her brother after all. Oh wait. I'm not her brother anymore. Eric's voice trailed off, stunned. His heart suddenly felt hollow. If he wasn't her brother, then what was he? He couldn't even be a good brother. What was left for him to do? I looked at Eric, my gaze lowering softly. I didn't know what he was thinking. But then again, we never were anything to each other. Chapter 24. Angelo was much quieter than Eric. He sat there in silence as if waiting for something until the police took him away. You threatened the deceased with a knife. Yes. Why? Because I loved her but couldn't have her. I wanted to kill her. Take me away, I'm guilty. Angelo offered his hands voluntarily. But whether he was guilty and what crime he had committed would be for the police to decide. I didn't want to be entangled in any of that. He held the knife to me, but it was all for Abigail. Wasn't it? No need to cast himself as some tragic lover. I didn't see any depth in his affection. Chapter 25. Later my body was brought home. Because I had died by suicide, my father and stepmother thought I was bad luck. They found a random grave plot and buried me without much thought. But it didn't help. Their company still went bankrupt. When Cecilia came to tell me, she cursed them for blaming their problems on me. It was obvious. Dad was too old to manage the business, and Eric had stopped being responsible. Oh, speaking of Eric, he came to my grave almost every day. I even saw him going through my diaries. After Mom died, I had written pages and pages of self-blame in those diaries. Maybe my brother was right. I shouldn't have convinced Mom to get a divorce. I'm the one who killed her. I won't think about fairness anymore. I'll endure. I'll back down. I had a one-night stand, but how do I remember the man was Angelo? It was supposed to be Angelo taking me back to the room. Where did he go? He blames me. Should I defend myself? Maybe not. Just endure. It was partly my fault too. Maybe if I back down, things will be fine. Reading these entries, Eric seemed to go mad. He repeated over and over. Jesse, it wasn't your fault. It was my fault. I was the bastard. Eric had always felt ashamed of the divorce. After losing Mom, he was heartbroken. So he took it all out on Jessica. He had regretted it for a long time. But then, why hadn't he apologized? Jesse, I'm apologizing now. Can you hear me? He knelt at my tombstone, his fingers brushing against my picture. At that moment, I felt something strange. I rejected it. Chapter 26. After Angelo was released, he kept trying to have me moved into his family's ancestral tomb because I was his fiancée. However, every time he tried, Eric stopped him or the weather turned bad. Oh, and then there was Abigail's wailing. Sometimes she sought out Angelo. Sometimes she sought out Eric. But neither of them paid attention to her anymore. Eventually, Abigail began to realize, you two men were playing me, weren't you? You liked me just because I looked like her. Didn't you? For the first time, I saw a look of extreme hatred on her once delicate face. She had been so proud once. Two men had loved her. She had given up her career early, waiting to marry into wealth. She played between Angelo and Eric. She liked Angelo, but she figured that if she couldn't have Angelo, she could still consider Eric. But now, it was all a lie. These two men had tricked her so thoroughly. She had given them her heart. Why should her sincerity be trampled like this? That night, the Koo family's old mansion caught fire. The fire had been set by Abigail, consumed by rage and desperation. The blaze was fierce, and only the old housekeeper managed to escape unscathed. Eric died. I saw it with my own eyes. And he saw me too. Jesse, have you come to take me with you? He held my photo in his hands, with no will to survive. You're not really my brother, so why would I take you? I'm just here to see how you die. Yes, I still hated him. How could he stand by and do nothing when Angelo held a knife to me? From that moment I had no brother. Eric looked at me until the flames consumed him without saying another word. After his death, I never saw his soul. But in the charred remains of the house, I found something Eric had written long ago. Jesse, I didn't want to be your brother. I stood there in shock, finally understanding. So that's what it was. No wonder he had been so cruel to me. Well then, let's not meet in the next life. Chapter 27. As Abigail went to prison for arson, the Lou Corporation was investigated for illegal activities, and Angelo's parents were involved. Abigail had spent years with Angelo, and this was her revenge. Angelo no longer had the strength to turn things around. It was long after the Lou family went bankrupt that I heard about it. Angelo drank himself to death. That night, Cecilia came to see me again. She rambled on about so many things. Mario got sentenced. Serves him right. Ms. Lou lost her job at your house, but I've hired her, so don't worry. You'd better wait for me. Don't go reincarnating without me. We'll hang out when I die. And by the way, I haven't put up the door gods at home, so feel free to drop by anytime. The mother cat's due to give birth tomorrow, so remember to come see the kittens. But tonight I'm going to visit her in her dream and tell her, put up the door gods and I won't visit you. I'm going somewhere else. I won't wait for you. And you shouldn't keep thinking about me. Jessica will remain just a name carved into a tombstone while Cecilia is still full of life. Even though we'll meet again someday, I'd like that day to come much later.